Did you get Landry in? Like, all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Yes, we are live at State Farm Stadium, site of Super Bowl 57. Darren Smith, Steve Walls, co-host, host of the Pregame Chiefs Sheet. We are live. Super Bowl 57 featuring the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. This is for all the marbles, Steve. We started the season here. This is where we end the season. Your initial thoughts, Super Bowl 57, Chiefs, Eagles.
If I'm not mistaken, and I'm correct, we did the show from somewhere around here earlier. But I'm not going to say that. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because not only do Chiefs fans get to experience this, the folks that did not make it to the Super Bowl in 2019, 2020, they're here and able to experience this.
Both teams coming to today's game 14-3, number one seeds, top offense for the Chiefs, top defense for the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, a lot of historic moments in this game. Andy Reid facing off against his whole team. Went from the Eagles, led them to a Super Bowl appearance. Back, got fired, came to Kansas City. This is his third Super Bowl appearance with the Kansas City Chiefs. With the Eagles, of course, you got Nick Sirianni. They just won the Super Bowl 5 years ago. Kansas City won it 3 years ago. These two teams are now back facing each other. And, Steve, I mean, look, when we look at this matchup, there's a lot of historical facts going on there. You got two brothers facing off against each other, Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce. But more importantly, Black History Month, you've got two black starting quarterbacks facing off against each other for the first time in NFL and Super Bowl history. Your thoughts on that matchup?
A lot of people didn't think that would ever happen, right? Yeah. I talked to Michael Vick earlier this week, and he said, I asked him a question about, Jalen and Patrick both being black quarterbacks, and Mike kind of set in the way. He said it was done back in the 60s. We understand, the different quarterbacks that have come through, black quarterbacks, but he didn't think that there would ever be two black quarterbacks facing off in the Super Bowl. So I think, it just shows you where the quarterback position has come and where it's going. I mean, the teams want to get more athletic. The black quarterback is not put in the box as they used to be in the past. And I think, teams, it's a monkey see, monkey do type league. So whatever one team sees as successful, that's what other teams want to do.
Both teams come in with injured quarterbacks, but to what extent, we just don't know. Of course, Patrick Mahomes, due to the high ankle sprain that he suffered in the divisional game, toughed it out, played well, led his team past Cincinnati Bengals 2 weeks ago. He's more so probably around the 85-90 percentile range. We know Jalen Hurts had to suffer the shoulder injury that kept him out of 2 games late in the season. He didn't throw too much in the game against the San Francisco 49ers. Your thoughts on these quarterbacks living into the finale, not 100%?
Yeah, it's the thing. I think Patrick, I'm going to start with him first. I think his injury was kind of led on to be more worse than what it is. I understand some, when you get the high ankle sprains, it takes a little bit. I mean, he's not 100%, of course, but I think he's functioning, and that's all you need. I mean, we saw what happened with him playing in Tampa Bay with the turf toe, and he was still able to do some crazy throws and still able to run. We even saw Patrick 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Right off of the hurt ankle, and he was still able to use his legs. He got up a little gimpy, but he was still able to use his legs. Now, Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, that injury, I think, is not his throwing arm. So you take a hit, a sack, that's what you don't want to do. And he's mobile, so I think if you hit him just the right way and he falls on it that way, that may kind of hinder him as well.
I just kind of want to set the scene for you all and let you all understand what the atmosphere is looking like now. You might be able to hear stuff going into our microphone. The crowd out here, Steve, to say the least, is thick. Now, from where we are, from our vantage point, it would give you the impression that it's more Eagles fans than Chiefs fans, but just because of where we're located and where the internet. But when we tell you that it is a 50-50 crowd, trust me, this atmosphere is going to be. This will not be a New England, St. Louis Rams 13-3 ball game. Right. It's going to be point scoring. The crowd will be raw. I can assure you, and I was talking about today, I can imagine Kansas City coming in off of Tech 9 and Meek Mill's Dreams and Nightmares entering in for the Eagles.
Of course.
I mean, it is going to be a raucous occasion. It is packed. It is a total. I mean, trying to get in, you better have a ticket or you better have a credential, because otherwise you're not getting into this place. It is tighter. It is tighter than believe. But Steve, let's look at this game. Andy Reid. And look, we'll do all the legacy talking just a little bit, but Kansas City coming to this ball game, they're 14-3, along with the Eagles, they're 14-3. What is the key to victory for the Chiefs, in your opinion, to get past Philadelphia today?
I think the main thing is you have to stop Jalen Hurts. I think you've got to cut the head off the snake. As Jalen goes, the Eagles go. I mean, he's able to use his legs more than his arm. I think if you're able to stop him from being mobile, I think you'll be fine. If I'm Steve Spagnuolo, I want Jalen to beat me with his arm. I just don't see him. I know he's effective, but I don't see him going into a shootout with Patrick Mahomes. And on the flip side, I think the Chiefs, they just need to continue doing what they've been doing. I think you need to get you got to start with Isaiah Pacheco, get him going, and then Patrick opens up. And I think once the duo of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes gets warmed up and they get rolling, I think that's gonna make the difference in the world.
One of the things that I see is that, one, Kansas City, they need to, like you said, establish a run game. But here's the thing. They're going to have to put points on the board. And one thing we don't have to worry about, we don't have to worry about them playing down to the level of competition. They know they have to play at a high level this game. Right. Otherwise, you can have a 31-9 situation that took place 2 years ago in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they've been loose all week. I talked to my suit guy, and he was telling me when he was taking Eric Bieniemy and some of the other coaches, their suits, they're just like business as usual. I mean, so they're not worried about the spotlight. They're not worried about it being too big of a moment. They're just ready to get this game over with.
And you know what? It's crazy that you said that, because I told someone the other day, I said, this game, the Chiefs have been here.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a first-year player and you're making it to the pinnacle of your, the hierarchy of a game, like of your sport, this is like, oh man, your heart's about to beat out of your chest. And I mean, mistakes can happen. We saw some early on mistakes with the Chiefs against the 49ers,
yep.
Right? And that first Super Bowl, and they were able to, of course, overcome it because that's what they did all season. But when you look at it from Tampa, Tom Brady was a veteran. He's been here multiple times, right? So I think that's what kind of willed them and then their defense, right? So that being said, I think the veteranship of Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes on the defense side, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, they're going to be able to wheel these young guys into a victory.
One of the things that I would love for people to watch out for in today's game is a few things, Steve. Hey, let's watch, and we always talk about our X factors, and we can kind of get into that now. We need to, but when it comes to the X factors for us, one of the things that I tell people is look at that offensive line and defensive line. And for me, this week, that's all I've been talking about. I want to see what goes on in the trenches. If you're Lane Johnson, if you're Jason Kelce, how are you going to defend against Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap and a Chris Jones, especially Chris Jones, who was third in the league in defensive MVP voting.
Yeah.
Then you look at the other way around. You know that you got a team that's 78 sacks coming into this ball game that they get after the quarterback. How are the Chiefs? Look, I'm not too concerned about Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith. It's Orlando Brown and Andrew Watt on the outside. How do they hold up? How does that booking hold up against that front seven? Because and then of course you got Slade them on the side, on the outside that can go man up. So I'm looking to see the chess movements on the board on how the Chiefs go up against their defense. And look, I'll be honest with you, man. For me, and I'm gonna get into my X factor right away. For me, my X factor is going to be Orlando Brown. Okay. Look, and I see that because for Kansas City to win and have a good shot, one, they got to put points on the board, and of course that's going to fall on Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. Yeah. But on the field, he's got to be able to keep Patrick upright because the rush is coming. Okay. So how's the footwork going to be and stuff, making sure that Patrick doesn't get in, and then of course even if the play breaks down, Patrick's going to run around. You've got to make sure that nobody gets to him, and that he has that he has much of a clean pocket as possible. So for me, Orlando Brown, look, you want the big contract in the offseason today. Hey, this is first of all, to his credit, good, bad, or indifferent, he's lived up to his franchise tag. Patrick could be a lot worse. Patrick could be a lot worse at the moment, but Orlando Brown has kept him upright and has kept him clean, and he's got he's helped this team get to the Super Bowl. So to be honest, I think if you can perform well today, he's ready to get you a nice little contract extension in the offseason.
I agree, but Patrick has to make sure that he makes it easy on Orlando Brown too.
So he got to make it easy on the whole entire offense.
I think he has to make it easier than that. And Patrick is my X factor. I think, and I always say, but as the Chiefs go, or as Patrick goes, the Chiefs go. And he has to. This is where his legacy is going to come into play. I mean, I think he's solidified, in the game of football and in the NFL. But I just feel like for people to really understand Patrick, because you got to remember at the beginning of the season, it was all Josh Allen. It was Josh Allen. Then there's, you can't beat Joe Burrow. I mean, then Justin Herbert. I just think in order for him to be able to solidify his name in the hierarchy, right, of quarterbacks and be up there. Tom Brady's no longer in the league, right? So it's Patrick's league now, and I think in order for people to understand that, he's got to come out and have a great game.
Philadelphia Eagles, of course, Jalen Hurts is their star quarterback finalist for MVP. Got one vote. Patrick, congratulations to him. Was able to win the second most valuable player in the league. Look, you talk about legacy. And I don't like jumping around, but let's go going back to Jalen Hurts. The way that he was able to take that next step.
Yep.
He led the team. I mean, he took over the starting quarterback even though Doug Peterson didn't want him to be. He took over the starting quarterback, led the team to the playoffs last year. Didn't have a good showing in the playoffs, but in the offseason, found him a quarterback guru and was working all offseason. And we saw literally up until he got hurt, was probably the front runner for MVP because nobody saw the Eagles taking off the way he did. The shoulder injury moved Patrick back up into the front, and that's how he clinched it. But Jalen Hurts, the leadership that he's been able to show for this team, and look, they fall into a brick wall, which is scary because just like the Chiefs follow Patrick, that's how the Eagles follow Hurts, and which is why we're on this collision that we are today. I
agree. But one thing about it is, and I was telling the W Show crew this earlier, it's the fact that Patrick has to show that he's the elder statesman in this game. He has to say, hey, little fella, you're going to have to wait your turn. It's not your turn yet. Just like Tom Brady used to do to everybody in the league. Yeah. I mean, if you're great, you're going to have to, when folks think that you don't have it, you gotta get out there and show them. And especially you got a young guy like Jalen Hurts, who this is his first time in the Super Bowl. Yeah. This Eagles team has been perfect all season.
Kansas City.
If you're perfect all season, I haven't seen a team that's been perfect all season and then continue it on into the Super Bowl.
I know. For me, the Eagles have been the best team. They've been the most consistent team from beginning to end. So it was kind of expected them to be here. Kansas City, they had to kind of claw their way. When they were first for a minute, lost to Buffalo, was second place, and obviously they never fell lower than second place, and then Cincinnati took out Buffalo, and then of course Kansas City took out Cincinnati to get to this game. For me, the key to this game is going to be the coaching. Okay. Andy Reid. This is Sirianni's first Super Bowl, but we've seen Andy Reid in the last two Super Bowls, and so I'm interested to see how the play calling takes place. To see what kind of plays they call. Especially, look, if they win the coin toss, we know they're going to defer. Right. Now, I've been a big proponent, and I know some people are like, well, let's see the Chiefs offense out there first and maybe go down and score. And so, look, we're talking about seeing the Eagles play from behind. But the only way they can play from behind is if the Chiefs get on top of them. Yeah. That's why I would always be like, hey, score first, kind of take them out their rhythm. But we know what they're going to do. If they do that, to me, if they can get a stop on this opening drive, I think that's going to be really key because obviously, so you kind of stop the momentum. And then depending on where they're at, hopefully, they can dial some plays up, get in the end zone, and then go from there. I do believe that in this particular game, Andy, to your point, will probably rely more so on the run game. But we also know Patrick is someone who will augment the line, and if he sees something, he's going to throw it out there. So your thoughts on this coaching matchup between Sirianni and Andy Reid?
I think Andy Reid he's trying to, we talked about legacy a little bit ago. Yeah. I think Andy is trying to solidify his legacy, and he's going up against his old team, right? So he wants to show.
But he's 3-0 against them so far.
He's 3-0. So I just think he wants to go out on top, and I mean, it may be a little bit premature, but I think Andy wants to ride off into the sunset. I really do. He wants to,
with that
because Andy still has what was the big key about Andy? He couldn't win the big game. Yeah, and he only won one. So when you won two, Travis Kelce said this a little bit last week. It's like 2 is better, right?
Yeah, but here's the flip side. Dealing with Andy, and you know how Andy feels young being around these players,
of course,
and so it's also an ego-driven business because if you win, just like they try to run it back and forth.
Yeah.
The best way to become a dynasty or leave a legacy, back to back.
Okay,
so I can see it, but then if they look up and win it back to back, why would Andy want to be the first head coach to win 3 in a row?
I mean, but you gotta get this.
I'm saying if they were to do it and they can win it next year, I'm saying that's the same amount. That's the thinking that. Okay, yes, we did it back to back, but hell,
sometimes health comes into play too.
Yeah,
sometimes health comes into play too, and sometimes
that's different.
Sometimes health comes into play, and I think when you're Andy Reid, and Andy's 70 years old.
He's only 64.
Well, 64. So I think you still want to enjoy your family. You want to enjoy your grandkids. I'm just thinking from a health standpoint. You remember last year when he had the scare during the season?
But I also know that this is how he gets away from them. I mean, this what makes the man happy. Look, as much as I would love to see him right off to the sunset and maybe Eric going to be taking head coach, I know that right now that if you're Andy Reid, you've been waiting for this quarterback all your life. You want to ride this thing as long as you can for as far as you can. So if you can look, just like he's chasing, just like Patrick is chasing the legacy of Tom Brady.
Yeah.
What makes you think Andy don't feel like he needs to be chasing the legacy of a Chuck Noll or Bill Belichick?
But you get 2. Let's just say you get 2. You're still up there. You still didn't just win. There's a lot of coaches that won only one.
Yeah, but there's still levels to this. Bill Walsh has 3.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? You're at the same level as Jimmy Johnson and a couple others.
But you're in the conversation.
No, you're in the conversation.
Yeah.
But you also want to separate. Why not go from Jimmy Johnson to Bill Walsh? Walsh to Chuck Noll. Now you pass Chuck Noll. Now you and Belichick. Now and see. Then you get the fight. I was like, you know what? I think Patrick got a little bit more in him. So.
All right. So what you're saying is there's no way Andy retires after this game?
No.
Okay.
No. Hell, even Clark Hunt said, ain't been no discussion.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there because we've heard the talk, and the rumor, and I think Andy, there's some thought there.
But like this, if Andy retires and that allows Eric Bieniemy to get the head coaching job, then I'm all for it. But other than that,
does it? I mean, let's just say Andy retires. Would you think they would give Eric Bieniemy a shot?
I hope so, because I'm going to be pressing them. Right. Like, what's up, bro?
Okay.
What's up? But now, going back to the game, on the defensive side of the football, one of the biggest things has been talked about is the Eagles' running game. How does the Chiefs' defensive line and Nick Bolton and Willie Gay, how do they stack up? Because look, a lot of people forget Kansas City played in Philadelphia last year now. Obviously, Dominican Sue, A.J. Brown wasn't there, but a lot of the key players were still there. And the Chiefs still ran off 400-plus yards, and I think Patrick threw for 5 touchdowns in that game. So, I mean, there was a lot of offense scored in that game. So, how do you see Kansas City going up in their defense trying to contain Jalen Hurts in that offense?
In all honesty, I think the Chiefs are going to get out to a quick start. They have to. You have no choice.
I agree.
They have to get out to a quick start. And with that being said, the Eagles do not want to get into a shootout with the Chiefs. I just think Patrick has too much firepower, and the fact that he's able to go to 4, 5, 6, 7 different receivers, man, that just that's tough to defend. It really is. I mean, you think, oh well, we've stopped Travis Kelce. Oh well, now you're getting Juju Smith-Schuster. Oh, well, now you get MVS had a hell of a game. His best game of the season was in the AFC Championship game. So they talked about that at the beginning of the season. It's like, all right, you never know who's going to go off, and everybody has had some success in this season. So you never know whose game is going to be.
I want to ask you, Steve. Look, we've covered I mean, we've covered every game. I don't even know how many games we've been doing this far over the year, but we were at training camp. You and I mean, and we've had these conversations how we see the potential where this team can be.
Yeah.
You and I, we thought maybe game 6, game 7 that Pacheco would be in the starting lineup, and then ended up being game 4 against the Patriots. Just looking back at the season to where we are today, what do you think has been, in your opinion, some of the highs and lows of this team to where we get to where we are?
I think the lows of the Chiefs this season was having the absence of Tyreek Hill, and then trying to figure it out with all new supporting cast and wide receivers, with the Marquez Valdez-Scantling, with the Juju Smith-Schuster, and then you had Mecole Hardman go down. And then you just had to figure it out, right? Like, I think that was the lows, and then the turnovers. Like, we saw the game against the Colts. We saw how the Broncos. We saw those turnovers and how they affect the team, special teams. We saw the Harrison Butker missing the field goals. That was a problem all season, and I think those were some of the lowest points. But then you look at the highs; they were still able to win a lot of those games. So I mean. That being said, I think the highs definitely outweigh the lows on this Chiefs team this season.
And that's been the best telling thing about this team is that, again, when you got Mahomes, you're never out of it. I mean, I tell people it raises your blood pressure up because you don't know. I mean, again, if you look at the AFC Championship game, five sacks, 2 turnovers, and it's still a 2020 ball game with 2 minutes to go in the game. You can't have that. So just looking at it now. X factor defensively. Who's the X factor for you on the defense?
It has to be Chris Jones. I think talking to Michael Strahan earlier, I asked him, what he thought about Spags, and he went into Chris Jones. How Chris Jones goes, this team goes. So, and I didn't really think about it like that. I thought it was more maybe Frank Clark. The mixture.
Just because if he gets a sack, big play, he kind of gets it just little things like that. The mannerism get the crowd involved. I
agree, but I didn't really think Chris Jones, because we don't see him as that vocal leader like that. I mean, I
think he's vocal. I just think because of some things that took place, he's just not vocal in front of the media.
Yeah, and I mean, we knew who it was last year.
Yeah,
we knew it was Tyrann Mathieu. The past couple of years, we knew. I mean, he was vocal. He was the guy out there that was, getting the Chiefs to put out their media deal on social, and it'd be Tyrann in the huddle screaming.
Yep.
I mean, sometimes you don't have to always be the rah-rah guy, but you can lead by example. But it has to be Chris Jones, man. He has to not allow the AFC Championship game to be a fluke.
That's a good point. For me, and I'm still one of your deals, it's got to be Nick Bolton.
Okay.
Because, again, we feel like they're going to run the football and they're going to try to run effectively.
Yeah.
So, of course, the kid with the green bat, Nick Bolton, he's got to make those plays. Now, look, we thought he should have made All-Pro. He should lead the team in tackles in the game tonight. So, for me, he's going to be the guy because he's going to be key, obviously, putting everybody, calling the plays out for Spags, putting people in their spot. Yeah. And then if they run the football, making the plays and stuff like that. So, for me, he's the guy that's going to be key in the X Factor for me. Now, we look at special teams. Special team has been an issue during the season. Yeah. Hasn't been in the postseason to that extent. Now, people are expecting a close ball game. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Tommy Townsend, punt the ball, if they hit the punt. But more so, Harrison Butker, hey, don't miss extra points, don't miss field goals in the
I think he got his swagger. Jay-Z said he got his swagger back. I think he got that back in the AFC Championship. That was a game-winning field goal.
Of course.
And one of his biggest field goals of his career, I think. So it seems to always have come down to Harrison Butker to save the day.
One way or another,
Yes. So I think if you're looking at special teams from my point of view, I think it has to be whoever's doing the punt return, which that would mean that the Chiefs are getting the Eagles to go 3 and out, right? So I think it's whoever's doing the punt return. I don't know if it'll be Sky. I don't know how healthy Kadarius Toney is. I mean, he didn't talk. He didn't really talk much, and I mean, he's not really a vocal guy. But I just think if it's Kadarius Toney, I think they'll be fine. Sky Moore, he's eased his way in there, but you see in the back of his mind, he still has what happened early on in the season.
How do you feel the rookies, the newbies, Justin Reed and Carlos Dunlap, and them will play
Yeah.
in their first Super Bowl.
I think they've meshed really well. Yeah, I think they've meshed really well. I think they've got into.
Like you don't think it's gotten to them anymore.
Yeah, I think they've got into the scheme. I think they've understood, and that was one of my questions to Frank Clark. It was like, what about the young guys? Like Spags has not been known to play as young guys, but he's had to.
Yeah, right? I saw your video.
Yeah, so he's had to play these guys, and they picked up the scheme. Like we saw when Spags first got here, going from the other scheme that they had, right, Bob Sutton.
Yeah,
it took them a while. It took them a little over a year to be able to figure it out. So that being said, I think the young guys have stepped up, and this is going to be their game. They have a team full of youth.
Damn. I got to put another Steve Roll when it comes to the X Factor.
Okay. All right.
Steve Spagnuolo.
Okay.
And I said it. Look, and I said the last couple of games that. Well, I know I said in the AFC Championship game that he needed to call the game of his life.
Yeah.
We know he did that against the Patriots in 2007, and to an extent, he did it in Miami because again, the team, for them to come back down from 20 to 10, and the defense had to do some things. I'm interested to see. Look, we heard the reports of Vic Fangio spending 2 weeks as a consultant with the Eagles to try to help them. I don't know how. Last I checked, he didn't have much success against the Chiefs as the head coach there. Right. So
if you got to go to a consultant, that means that means something's up.
Yeah, well, he's gonna sign with Miami after the game.
Yeah.
But I want to see what Spags dials up. Remember, they said he didn't want to give his scheme away to us in the public, which I get. Yeah. And they had a tremendous bargain. They finally got to Joe Burrow 5 times in that game. So I want to see, what they focus on. Obviously, I think they're going to try to stop the run first. But again, you still got 2 beasts on the outside. Yeah. Got a Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith. You got A.J. Brown. So still got them dudes. Now, I don't think the moment is too bright for their defensive backfield because they played against everybody.
Johnson and Joshua Williams both have had success.
Oh yeah,
and with interceptions, they've had some success. So it's like, okay, I think Spags is saying put them out there on that island.
Yeah,
I don't think A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are as good as Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs.
Agree.
Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, that duo. I think the
Jamar Chase got a tight end in and Gutter, saying to where you got.
But I think Jamar Chase, the T. Higgins duo with Tyler Higbee. I think that is. I think that duo is much better than this duo that they're facing today.
Agreed. Steve, before we get out of here, let's give the people our prediction. Start with you.
Man, I people don't agree. I don't think DJ Q agrees with me, but I feel like the Chiefs are going to come out here on fire, man. I think they're going to ride the wave of the AFC Championship game. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be somewhere 31-14, 31-10.
Oh, yeah, damn. Okay.
Yeah, 31-14, 31-10. I think they're going to get out fast and be on top.
Okay. I'll take that. I would take that. Well, I need to be over the 50. But okay. I've got the Chiefs 35-24 over the Eagles, and I just think when Kansas City gets on top, that they'll be able to add points, and then it'll force Hurts to throw the football, which he might not. Again, we don't know how good that shoulder is, and that'll allow Chris Jones and Frank Clark to dial it up and the pressure. Yeah. Down up. I know we're getting ready to get things started with American Beautiful and stuff like that. So, before we get out of Steve, let's thank our sponsors. Who you want to thank, and of course, who styled you today?
First, I want to thank Leandra Harden. She styled the whole week, Super Bowl week. So thank you to her. She made sure that all the looks that folks that seen on social media, she made sure that Dillard's got me right. So thank you to her, and shout out to Dillard for making sure that all of my suits and everything were good for Radio Row this week and also for today. So if you need something from Dillard, check out Dillard at Zona Rosa and talk to Heather.
Want to, of course, as always, thank Todd White and Todd's Clothiers and Tailored Suits for styling me each and every year. 4 years strong. We plan on going to a 5th season, and look, he's located 2 locations, downtown off of 20th and Broadway, along with inside Ward Parkway Mall off of an 85th and State Line. Look, I also want to thank Gates Barbecue. Hopefully you all got your pregame meal ready. Kickoff is just a little under a half hour away. Look, for Steve Walls, for Darren Smith, we want to thank you so very much for doing it all season long. Of course, post-game, trust us, follow us. We'll just bring you everything. And I mean, we'll be here late, especially if they win. If they lose, I don't know, you might not find me. But we'll
it's all about the W, baby.
As you said. And look, but in all seriousness, make sure you join us this Tuesday night at the Soaring Steak and Oyster House for the Red Hour. We'll recap this game, recap the season. Myself, DJ Q, Steve Walls, and Sean Tyler. But look, whatever happens tonight, celebrate responsibly. No shooting, please just celebrate responsibly. At halftime, Steve and I may do a space or something, but but just tune in. Game is on Fox. For social media, follow Steve Walls at Steve Walls KC. Follow me at Darren Smith WHB. For Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith. Thank you so very much for spending another year with us with our pregame cheat sheet. We'll be back next season after we win the Super Bowl. We out.
Football fans, you can't spell gate without Gates, and great tailgates start with Gates sauces and seasonings. Named synonymous with mouth-watering tailgates. When you make your list of tailgate essentials, add Gates sauces and seasonings to that list. Spice up your tailgate experience with that unmistakable great taste. Available in 4 tantalizing flavors. Classic, sweet and mild, mild and hot. Find it at your local grocer, and if you don't see it, ask for it. Visit GatesBarbecue.com to purchase any of the great sauces and seasonings. Great tailgates start with Gates.